Why did I play video games for years instead of working and studying? Now I have to go to this crappy job. Every day, Jeffrey is tortured by the errors that he made in his past. Adonis is the ultimate man, but that does not mean he was born like this. In the past, Adonis has made many mistakes, but he knows that the mistakes he made are what have shaped him into the man he is today. Adonis tells young Jeffrey about David Goggins. He sounds like a man who was just born really disciplined, but then Jeffrey hears about his past, how he was overweight, unmotivated, and traumatized and abused. Look at him today, says Adonis. His past doesn't define him, and so Jeffrey realizes that it doesn't matter what decisions he's made in the past. It matters what decisions he makes in the present. I received a DM from a young guy who was talking about some ways that he had messed up, and he said mainly it was with studying, but also that he had a girl who was into him and he didn't treat her right, and then they kind of split up and now he can't really seem to get back with her. She seems to have moved on, and he sent me like a massive message on DMs and he seemed very regretful, and so we asked for some advice on how to get over some mistakes that he had made. And maybe this is relevant to you. Maybe there's a mistake that you've already been thinking about since you clicked on this video, which you did, you know, a little while ago, and it's still bothers you to this day. It's just a mindset change that you need, and I'm gonna try and help you with that. There's a quote that I like, and it's from someone called Tamara Kullish. And the quote is, "Your past mistakes are meant to guide you, not define you." When young men make some mistakes, when certain young men make some mistakes, we seem to almost obsess over them and relish about how our lives would have been right now if we didn't make that mistake. If we just studied harder a few years ago, imagine where we'd be right now. If we chose a different pathway in our career or relationships, you know, different decisions, imagine where we would have ended up right now. I want you to think right now, if you've been like, you know, thinking about this mistake and you've been actually getting a little bit upset over it, is it actually helpful for us to fixate on some mistakes that we previously made that we know we can't change? And sure, you know, we want to know for the future what to do differently, but is obsessing over it actually helping us? Should we not, in a very practical, rational, masculine way, set a new rule or principle or learning lesson for us and then just move on with our lives? Because right now, you're emotionally tied to the situation that went by, aren't you? Whatever it is for you, you're thinking about the girl that you messed up with, or you're thinking about how you messed up with your studies, or whatever it is, you're thinking about that right now, and you're so emotionally invested into this without thinking, okay, how do I actually utilize this to improve my life? Because we know we can't, you know, fly back in time and change things, because if we would have bought Bitcoin at like 2K and then sold it at like 40K, obviously. That's the only thing that we would have changed if we went back in time. We can't go back, right? So what we can do, which I think is incredibly valuable, and it's something that you can take from me, is start to define some learning lessons and principles for your life based on some of the experiences that you've went through, especially mistakes, but also with some successes. So this is what I do. I have a particular journal. It's like a brown leather journal. It was quite expensive. I remember it being like £40 at a time, and I bought it years ago at a time where I didn't really have that much money. And inside of this journal, I write down big learning lessons that I've had. So usually what I do is I kind of wrap up or write an ending note to some kind of experience in my life. So previously, you know, if I've had like a breakup, for example, I'll write down like ending notes. What did I learn from this? Where did I mess up? What could I improve next time? Just everything I can think of that future Hamza might find valuable. Then I condense it all down into a new principle, a new life lesson. And it could be something as simple as like, don't date friends. Don't date masculine women. That's a really good one. Don't date masculine women. At least for me, it's a horrible experience. Figure this out for you. Mine sound very misogynistic, like they're the only examples I've gave, but there's a lot of mine. Another one is dirty bulking doesn't work for me. So I have a page in that brown journal where I've wrote about my mistake of going on a dirty bulk, gaining a bunch of weight, eating a bunch of bad food, feeling like, you know, what happens when you eat bad food, like you just feel sick and you feel stupid, like literally mentally, like you're just tired and everything. And then I realized that, you know, dirty bulking can be effective for some people, but not for me. My performance in the gym didn't go up. It actually went down every time I ate bad food. I gained a bunch of fat, stopped liking myself, and so I made like a page, okay, noting this. Dirty bulking, eating bad food doesn't actually give me any kind of performance increase in the gym, which is common sense. Of course it is, right? So eating sugar or, you know, pancakes or something, it's common sense that that's like, yeah, it's not going to help you in the gym. There's this culture online of people saying that, yeah, you can eat whatever you want. A carb is a carb. If you eat 100 grams of sugar before a workout, then that's going to give you the same performance as 100 grams of rice. Like, obviously not. You know, I tried it for myself. I'm thinking, oh, you know, I really want to gain weight, and it's hard for me to gain weight. I need to bulk on about 4,000 calories. It was hard for me to gain weight, and so I started to eat a bit more dirtier and dirtier and dirtier, and eventually started to realize that my strength in the gym, my performance, my athleticism was actually going down. And as soon as I switched over to more healthy eating, eating, everything's going back up again. And then another thing related to fitness is my body fat levels. I journaled on a separate, big journal or a Notion about what body fat percentage I feel good at. And in the last few months, I did pretty big bulk. I bulked for most of 2022, literally for most of the year. And I got to about 20% body fat. And I started to, feel really bad. Like I just didn't feel athletic. I didn't like how I looked. In some good pictures and videos where I'm flexing, I look pretty good. But just day to day, I just didn't really like how I looked. I didn't like how I felt. I didn't like just my stomach bulging out of my shirt a little bit. I wasn't like fat at all. Certainly didn't bulk up to the levels that some other people do. But at least for me, that was kind of abnormal. I was writing about all this, then I had like a new learning lesson to put into the brown journal where I said, okay, here is the body fat percentage that I should probably stay at for the rest of my life. And it's roughly 10 to 15%, which again, it's like, that's kind of common sense. That's what most people would say. But it's like, it's important for you to develop these principles and learning lessons for yourself. So this is exactly what you do with the mistake that you're obsessing over. Open up Notion or a computer document or the notes app on your phone, or get a piece of paper and a pen. That's the best way to do it. And start to write about what you've experienced, but in a very practical sense of the decisions you made and whether they were good or bad. Because I'm not asking you to write down the story of exactly what happened again. All we care about is just leaving this experience with some kind of asset, some learning lesson that we can now make the future version of ourselves better. So go and write down right now, what are some things that you've learned, that you've realized about yourself? What were some decisions you made that were bad? What were some decisions that you made that were good? And then compile this all down into one phrase, one lesson. So for me, one of my lessons is dirty bulking doesn't work for you. Eating bad foods actually reduces your athleticism and even strength in the gym. That's one of mine. So what could it be for you? What is a statement that you could write down about this past mistake? And you could write this down and put it as your phone wallpaper. You could write this down in a list somewhere on a notes app, or you could write this on a piece of paper, or you could go buy a journal like I've got and you could go write it in there, one page at a time. As soon as you've got this statement, this sounds like really woo-woo, wishy-washy. I think there's actually really good evidence for this. Do some kind of ritual to show that you have moved on from this part of your life. For most people, let's say if it's regarding like an ex-girlfriend or something, the ritual that is the most effective is that you delete everything, you block her on everything, and then you move on like that. Some guys can move on without that, but they wouldn't be watching this video. If you're watching this video and it's about this girl that you're constantly still checking up on Instagram and stuff, I guarantee you're not going to do it right now because emotions are there. I know you're not going to do it right now, but eventually when you discover this video again in like 2 months, or someone else tells you, you will only start to move on past this part of your life when you block her on everything and she's just not anywhere to be seen anymore. Do some kind of ritual. Sometimes for me, I just journal and I just kind of like write the last sentence as something like, okay, I forgive myself, or I forgive this person who did this thing. Something like that. Just something that puts a full stop, a period at the end of this sentence, of this part of your life. You'll find that this will help you more than you realize. If I was watching this video a few years ago and some guy told me, oh yeah, just journal about it, bro. Oh, just do a ritual. Like I'd be thinking, okay, what is this guy? Just tell me something proper to do. But from my experience of going through some mistakes and successes and failures, this has been very valuable to me. I think it's so important that as a young man, you go and get the learning lesson from this experience and you go write it down somewhere. You start to have like a whole page by page by page learning lessons and principles for you. And then, even though it seems so weird, that ritual thing really works for me. You need to figure out what it could be for you. Some people like to burn gift that the person gave to them. Some people like to, delete the messages or delete the pictures or whatever it is. Something like that will really help. Click and watch this video right now. Do the hard work, especially when you don't feel like it.